protected by the cosmos. I call in Archangel Uriel, guardian of the north, Archangel Michael, guardian of the south, Archangel Gabriel, guardian of the west, and Archangel Raphael, guardian of the east. Tonight I wanted to do a story time on the Jaio and energy, how it moves through our body, because the highest path of playing human is to integrate our highest aspects of our spirit into our lowest aspects of our human. And so it's a constant state of surrender and allowing your human body as a tool to completely embody your divine self. So the more relaxed the physical body is, the less trauma and pent-up emotion, the more fully the soul can occupy that space. And it's really important in the human experience to work at that, and there's no fast track for that. And I love hearing all of the experiences that people want to share with me, all the beautiful things you get to witness in meditation and higher experiences, how you get to leave your body. But really the most impressive aspects of the spirit playing human is to be able to fully embody that human while having these experiences. And so this is really the purpose of story time, because I am so unwaveringly obedient to spirit that I get to have those phenomenal experiences, those miraculous events that happen to me that don't happen to normal people, and they've been happening since I was a little girl. And the things that I've hid, because I figured it would be more inspiring for me to share how I self-heal, right? How am I obedient? How do I be obedient? How do I behave when I'm triggered? And how do I heal those triggers? But what happens is that people erroneously make the judgment that I'm not actually where I am spiritually, because I'm too fearful of sharing the most incandescent experiences that I have as a human, because I am more spirit than human. Thank you, brother, for saying that's beautiful. So what I wanted to talk about today specifically is our energy, what we are. We are not the body. We are not the mind. We are not even our emotions. We are the ever infinite, never changing, constant observer of the human experience. We are the unwavering frequency of love that resides in this human experience, but not confined by it. And so I wanted to speak about specifically some transits that I'm moving through. And so I always recommend, it's a really good idea to get your transits done. And the reason why it's important to get your transits done, or even have your natal chart done, is not because it defines you, but because it's another tool of the human experience to understand why you chose a specific birthday, why you chose a specific Earthsuit, certain experiences, why you chose to have certain experiences with certain humans, because it really sheds light on a lot of the karmic contracts that you've created, the transits that you have, who you are, like who I am as a spirit. And so when I talk about I know my rank in spirit, It's not saying I'm better than you or I'm beneath you. It's simply saying I know how long I've been at this. So I like to refer to that as like being at the DMV, okay? We're all at the DMV. You, me, we're all at the DMV, the Division of Motor Vehicles, and we're all renewing our vehicle, our bodies. We're all here renewing our registration. And everyone's in line. Some have been in line way longer than others. But you're not mad about that, are you? You came when you came. You're in line when you're in line. But we're all here doing the same thing, right? So you have a doctor, you have a drug dealer, you have a nurse, you have a stay-at-home mom. We're all there at the DMV, sitting next to each other, around each other, and we're all doing it. You don't look at them and say, wow, I should be ahead of line from that one. No, we don't think that at all. We're just like, look, I was here first. I'm sorry. I've been at this longer. But I know that when I get up to the window, I'm going to take care of my shit because I know there's a lot of people behind me. That's how the spiritual path is. When I level up, anybody who's behind me in line gets to level up too. It creates space because we are all facets of Source, of the Creator. But we are all here for a very specific and unique purpose. And I've heard, I like how Matt Kahn, he says, some are 8th graders, some are 6th graders. But I don't like that analogy because 8th graders do think they're better than 6th graders. And at the DMV, we're all fucking one, right? We're all there. We're all not crazy about it, but we know it's got to be done, right? So all of us here, we're not crazy about playing human, but we know we chose it, and we're here. We're in it. We're doing it. And so I'm not better than you. I'm not less than you, but I've been in line a long motherfucking time. And that's what I mean when I say rank in spirit. But believe me, I'm going to take care of business as quick as I can so that you can get in there quick too. Because I'm not about making anybody wait. So that can be revealed in your natal chart. Like, why are you here? What are you doing? So I have my transits done every single year. So the transits are what specific planetary movements are going to affect you specifically because of the birth date and time that you chose. So just like the Essenes watched and waited for Yeshua to be born because they watched the planets, they watched the stars, they knew where he was going to lay, where he was going to be birthed, because they watched, they studied, they paid attention to the power that would align in that specific space. That's why you chose your specific birthday and time and place. It's none of it, not a single part of it is coincidence. It is all so divinely designed. Ha. And so I chose to birth into this Earthsuit 7:55 p.m. on May 3rd, 1971. And I was a month late. So this is how purposely chosen this birth date is. My mother was in labor for 12 hours, Good Friday in April. And 12 hours of labor, she looked at my father, and the story goes, she said, wow, we're going to have an Easter bunny. And she said, everything stopped. Everything. Contractions, the heavy breathing, as if everything was like, brakes. Now, if that were to happen today, they would probably induce labor. But in that day, they sent her home. So in New York, it actually snowed that year in April. And my mother tells the story that she shoveled and shoveled. We lived in an apartment, and she says she even shoveled the parking lot and down the drive into the main street because she was hoping to go back into labor. But I waited. I waited until May 3rd, and I was born. So I specifically chose that day, and there are things I have been told in my natal chart that my astrologer of more than 30 years has never seen. So special, right? Or not. I mean, we're at the DMV, remember? But this is my last life. And so she starts telling me, this is very important for you to understand this about yourself. You are a walking portal. You are the pressure cooker for the entire collective consciousness. You feel everything for the entire consciousness. You are processing for everyone on the planet. So when she first told me this years ago, I chuckled. Because I know I feel everything deeply, but to feel the whole entire earth, that's a little dramatic. And so I said, okay, what exactly does that mean? And she said, I specifically plotted Atlantis on your chart to see, to confirm for myself what I believe you to be. And she said, and it confirms it. You are the true mother of all humanity. It's in your chart. So I said, what exactly does that mean if I am a mother of all humanity? That I am the very first true mother that birthed a human. What a fucking mess I made. That was literally the first thought I had. What a fucking mess. But so I am here specifically to heal the frequency of sacred union. So it is my life's work. I do work on that constantly within myself, of course, first and foremost, because that's everything. That's everything. So specifically last year, and this is when the shit really started hitting the fan in the collective, she said, I need you to be really careful, Sherry, because there's a transit happening in your chart that is very dangerous. And I've only ever seen it one other time, and it nearly killed him. He went into cardiac arrest. And she was so serious. And so I was like, okay, what is this transit? Uranus is going to sit specifically at the same exact degree as your natal sun. And that transit is literally called lightning in the body. And I said, okay, well, Uranus is the planet of electricity and expansion. And she said, but it doesn't happen just once for you. And she said, I'm really concerned. And she literally started crying. So I always listen to her so intently. And she has a YouTube channel if you want to follow her, Galactic Astrologers. Her name is Lolita Caroli. She's an amazing astrologer, and she lives in Vermont. She lives completely self-sustaining on her farm up in Vermont. She's amazing. And so I'm listening to her, and she said, it doesn't just happen to you once. She said, now I have to tell you how rare this is, because Uranus is a very slow-moving planet, and it only transits every 84 years. So she said, I know without a doubt that you chose this, like you specifically chose this. So I have to believe that it's not going to kill you. But it happens to you 6 times, not just once. And so, but it goes between last year and now into this year. And so I am literally in the 4th time right now. And so she said, I need you to really work on your heart, your physical heart, because I can't imagine that the physical heart can hold that much electric charge. And she urged me again, I need you to be really, really careful, because I'm telling you, I saw it only happen one other time and he ended up in the hospital. So I took her seriously, of course. And I see a beautiful acupuncturist. And I was a case manager for an acupuncturist for years. So I love Chinese medicine. It's so phenomenal and it's so deeply spiritual, the medicine. It's the original medicine, right? And for those of you who are not familiar with Chinese medicine, TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, it's the original medicine. And it was the Yellow Emperor that started acupuncture, and he was the wealthiest emperor of China. And he sent all of his richest and wisest physicians out into the world. And he said, I want you to figure out how to make me live forever. And he sent them out, and he said, come back when you've found it. And this one physician came back with acupuncture. And he talked about how it would create energetic charge in the body, opening up these meridians and energy. And they believed it would keep them alive forever. Of course it doesn't. Who the fuck wants to be alive forever anyway? But anyhow, that supposedly is the birth of acupuncture. But acupuncture is believed to be even far older. Millennia old. That those million-year-old mummies that are dug up that have tattoos, because those tattoos are actually on specific meridian points, they believe that the ancient tattoo was actually a form of acupuncture and healing. That designs were specifically on certain parts of the body because it was healing to the human. And it helped the spirit be more fully embodied into the human, which is the purpose of playing human in the first fucking place. So these ancient tattoos are on the body. And so my acupuncturist, she fascinates me too, like even talking about my tattoos, you know, the very specific points that I have tattoos, these are all on very specific meridian lines, and they all have a very specific meaning. And most of these I have chosen. My daughter did this tattoo, and she chose that. And so this is actually the Heart 1 meridian point. So that's a direct line to my heart that my daughter herself had done. So very amazing, right? Talk about being aligned with spirit. Anyhow, so that's Chinese medicine. So whenever I'm giving this information, thank you, Danny. So, and this is why I wanted to talk about the Sanjiao. So Sanjiao is Chinese medicine. So I always take these things that my astrologer gives me to my acupuncturist, because she is so deeply spiritual, and she doesn't get to have these kind of conversations because most of the people that come to her are usually experiencing chronic pain or some kind of issue with their body and they're trying to get well. But I go specifically to be calibrated, and I don't have issues. like I said, the last time I was sick, my daughter was a baby and she's 18. So I don't get sick. I don't have issues with my human. I don't have issues with my Earthsuit. And so when something arises in my Earthsuit, I always know it's energetic. What the fuck is going on? And so even all through my younger years, I always knew that my physical body was special, different, I guess I should say, and that I constantly felt everything. But it was her specifically that told me the first time, you have more fascia than I've ever seen in anybody. And even as a medical practitioner, I really didn't quite wrap my head around that. What exactly does that mean? And it was actually Becca, Danny knows Becca, I don't think Becca's on this live, who also said that to me. So the fascia is how deep and wide the fabric of your communication is in your skin. So usually if you touch someone here, the normal level of fascia that someone has, they feel it there. But because mine is so deep and travels so wide, when I touch myself here, I actually can feel that in my left hip, behind my left hip. So it travels through my body, the touch. So when I get massage, also it does that. And so when she started explaining that to me, she said, like, watch, I'm gonna touch you here. And she touched me on the back of my neck, and I could feel it down in my ankle. And she said, I can actually see that as light traveling your body. So I know where you feel it. And she started explaining that to me. She said, and because of that, your body will never be firm. She said, that's exactly why you're built like those ancient goddesses in the paintings. And I never witnessed myself that way until she said it. I used to push my body so hard to be firm, right? Because that was the ideal. To be a specific firmness or strength. I am fucking strong, y'all. But my body has never been tight. I've always been curvy and soft. I've always had an ass. I've always had a small waist and that hourglass shape, but my skin is soft. It's tender. It's supple, always. And I didn't start embracing it and really feeling how divinely designed my body was until she started explaining that to me. And she said, I know that this was purposefully done because your body holds more electrical charge than I've ever experienced in any patient. So I know that the amount of fascia you have is very unique and important. So it was at that point that I started really being appreciative of the softness of my body, the femininity and the goddess form, that it has a purpose. That softness to the feminine form has to actually house seismic potential. The masculine body doesn't have that. He is meant to be a foundational support and a protector. He doesn't house the dormant potential of a volcano, the seismic energy of Gaia herself, the motion of the cosmos. That's why women are supposed to be soft. So the feminine standard isn't that hard body with abs. She's not supposed to be that way. Her body is supposed to stretch and move with frequency. supposed to be bendable and malleable, so that extreme amount of fascia that I have was important. And so I started, Danny says, your body is made to ripple and flow when that energy strikes. Absolutely. And that's what the fascia does. The fascia not only translates that energy from one place to the other, but it also absorbs it. So that shock, that frequency, that electric in the body that I talked about, that transit that almost killed that gentleman, her partner, wouldn't kill me. And so being in now the 4th out of 6 times that this is going to happen for me, I knew, because my acupuncturist said, we have to prepare your actual pericardium. And so she started needling very specifically my heart. And at that time, I was having extreme issues with that karmic past relationship. And that's where I would always feel him. And it would be like such an extreme jolt to my heart. And she said, I think because you feel that so much, that instead of softening the pericardium, you actually create this rigidity. And she said, and that, I'm afraid, is what will hurt you. So the softening and the constant needling and the acupuncture to soften my pericardium. And so I was laying there on her table, and this was the first time I ever heard Jaio mentioned to me. I'm going to take a sip. God, that's good tea. So she said, there's something else that I feel is going to be an issue with your body, Sherry. And she said, it's your Jiao. Now, in Chinese medicine, for every solid organ, there is a hollow organ that is its partner. So for instance, the heart, which is solid, has the small intestines, which are a hollow tube. And that's its coordinating organ. So the Jiao is the hollow aspect of our life force. Our life force is what vibrates as matter. It's the energy. It's our aura. It's our extended self. It's our expanded self in the human experience. But the Jiao is the hollow room, the depth that is the partner to that solid self. So the Jiao, they believe, is the hollow organ of the life force. And it's not something that's normally talked about or even understood. And so she said, yours is full. And she said, so I want to try to explain this to you. And I said, wait, I can feel it. And she said, no, it's not the chakras. And I said, oh no, it's different than the chakras. Because there are 114 chakras in the body, y'all, just so you know this. But the chakras are a Hindu system. It's spiritual. It's not religious. Chakras were mentioned millennia before any religion was ever even existed. But the chakras are a turbine. It's a vortex. And so if they are healthy, it's actually empty. It just pushes and pulls energy. It's completely hollow, it's empty, but it's what animates our physical body, is the chakra system. And I said, no, I'm not feeling the chakras. I said, I feel 3 spaces and it feels fuzzy and hot. And so I described them to her. One is at the base of my sternum, and it's sandwiched between my heart chakra and my solar plexus chakra. One at my navel, that's between the solar plexus and the sacral, and then one directly on my pelvic floor in the genitals. And she said, Yeah, wow. I've never had anybody describe that and understand what I'm talking about. I said, yeah, but it's fuzzy. It's like, I feel like they're bulging. And she goes, that's the thing. It's not supposed to be bulging. That's the room. So if it's bulging, you don't have enough room to hold the corresponding life force that's outside of you. You have to create a room that's as big as you are outside. And she said, and your energy takes up a room. So it should be at least as big as the room. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So she said, all right, I'm going to needle you, work on it. So I laid on the table and I started with the top one. And it's like a door. It feels almost like a trap door. It opens, but swings down, opens. And so this is, the body is like the go-between, right? Between the Sanjiao and your life force. And so I started feeling almost this spilling into the door. And I immediately felt those other 2 points, almost like the cracking of the earth. And it went from my pelvic floor up. And it literally felt like I was the earth and it cracked open. And just this spilling into that space that became so immense. And I was in it. And I was so aware of my body from somewhere deep inside my body. Like I was on some kind of body walk. Like envisioning and witnessing my organs and the energy and the cells of my body from somewhere deep inside my body. And it was so powerful to experience that. But I felt more at peace than I had ever felt. And I was so grateful for that conversation to help me. And I knew there was like this remembering that was happening. It wasn't something new. It was something I needed to spark in my ancient library of wisdom, that it needed to come back to me. And it came back. And when she came to take the needles out, I said, oh, it's much too soon. I'm going to go into breath work tonight because I see her on Mondays, and every Monday is finished with breath work. I have breath work at the end of every Monday night with my soul sister, Rebecca. And she was my twin in Atlantis, my twin sister. And so it was my turn to breathe that night. And I remember she was holding space for me. And as soon as I started to go into the breath, I started bringing myself back into that Sanjiao energy just to create more room. And I suddenly had this awareness that felt like I was on the bottom of the sea, that I was underwater, and I felt like this immense pressure above me, that I was somewhere so deep. So if you have ever had the sensation of taking a deep breath and diving really deep, and then being so deep that you're not quite sure you took enough breath, and then you're trying to get back up to the surface and you're like, oh shit, am I gonna make it? That's the exact realization I started to have, because I was good with it. And then I realized, holy shit, my Earthsuit isn't breathing. Sherry isn't breathing. Sherry's not breathing. Oh shit, what would this do? What exactly will that do to Sherry? Fuck. She's not breathing. I gotta tell Rebecca that Sherry is not breathing. Like literally, that's the realization that I was having. So I'm trying to come back up into the body because I was so deep with it. And I couldn't animate the body. I couldn't move my limbs. I couldn't get myself to breathe again. I couldn't move my head. And so I'm like literally there, like trying to seemingly swim, back to the surface, back into my skin. And as soon as I got back into my body, I gasped, just as if you break the surface of water. And all the electronics in the room cut out. The Zoom call, my Bluetooth Bose speaker, my iPod, the light, everything cut out. And I was like, oh shit, what the fuck just happened? So I got everything back on. I got back on the Zoom. I texted her to tell her to get back on. And then I explained to her what happened. And I'm trying to explain to her. And she's like, okay, just lay back down. It's okay. And I was like a child. I was so excited to share that with her. And I'm like, but, and I'm explaining it to her. And she's like, just lay back down. It's okay. Get back into this. And, so that's a perfect example of how even conscious people get uncomfortable with shit sometimes. And so yeah, manifesting a partner that doesn't do that to me. Anyhow, so went back into the breath work. And so I've been working steadily on that Sanjiao, widening it as I do that. But as I came in to this now, this Uranus sitting on my natal sun, which is the lightning in the body, is creating a trine with Jupiter in my natal chart in this year's transits. Jupiter is the planet of abundance, outer expansion of the spirit. And so for everyone else in the consciousness, you were experiencing a square Jupiter, and that was the transit of impending shortages. So you had to be really clear on what you were experiencing in your reality as far as what you believed abundance means, or even expanding. For me, that transit not only was Uranus sitting on my natal sun, but it was called a sense of proportion. And so coming into that for myself, I had to get, she told me, you have to get so clear on this, Sherry, because in May, when it happens again, it's a trine, so it's going to move. And I believe that that movement is going to take you into forever. And I was like, okay. So I had to get really clear, what is my proportion? And if you look up the word proportion, it's fucking vague. Wikipedia is vague as fuck. Proportion is like, it's in comparison. Does Sherry like comparing herself to others? No. Who does Sherry compare herself to? Her damn self. So when Sherry's comparing herself to herself, I know that I'm a bitch ass and I play small a little bit too motherfucking much. So what is my proportion in comparison to itself? I don't treat myself near the way that I should be treated for the proportion that I actually am. Damn, that candle got bright all of a sudden. What the fuck? It felt hot too. It was like, okay, fire. I summon you, brother fire. Anyhow, so I started feeling into that. And I shared already about saying, my capacity is the cosmos. I summon the angels. I can do this. So what happened last week, because of this transit, and I wasn't aware, this is what I really wanted to share this story about, because when things happen to your body physically, people tend to panic and they don't ever go to what the real meaning is. And so I would have my patients sitting across from me in my consultation room on that little couch, and I knew the real reason why people were sick or having certain experiences physically, but I was so scared to expose myself as psychic that I would be asking these questions and sometimes spending like a fucking hour more than I needed to like pull teeth and get them to admit, you know, like, yeah, I have this issue going on at home. And I would go, I know, you know, but Everything physical, there is no such thing as a physical ailment. Everything physical is based in some disconnect or some spiritual aspect. Know that. And when I got really clear on that, that's when my body stopped having any physical issues. So when physical things show up in my body, my go-to is spirit. So last week, I start feeling like this achiness. But both of my kids have been sick. And their dad panicked and he went and got tested and he tested positive for COVID. So he's freaking the fuck out and he's tripping my kids out. My son was all stressed and he's like, can I just come home? I know it's not your week, but can I just come home because dad is stressing me the fuck out? And I said, yes, come. Because I am not worried about getting sick. I've had people that had COVID sitting in my healing space and I never got sick. I haven't worn a mask yet through this shit. Don't get sick. So I was like, yes, of course, come home. I'll take care of you. I full on kissed my ex-lover when he was sick. Like, don't get sick. So my babies are home, taking care of them, giving them their fire cider and zinc and boiling out rose hips for the vitamin C, all of that, nursing them. But my body was in so much pain. And so I was like, damn, maybe I am gonna come down with some kind of fever or something because my body was just achy. But it was weird. It wasn't how I remembered fevers, right? So when you get a fever, like your whole body aches, like your skin even hurts, right? It's like, ooh, yeah, you can feel it. Like even just to go like that, it's like feels sore, right? But it wasn't like that. It was from my neck to my knees only. And I was like, what the fuck is going on with this part of my body? And I started to realize it was literally my muscles in complete spasm. And it was painful. Like, I ain't gonna lie. That shit was so painful. I had sciatic stuff going down both of the back of my thighs. My low back was in spasm. My upper back was in spasm, to the point where it started wrapping around this shoulder and going down this arm. It was so painful. I couldn't do my yoga practice. Any kind of stretching was fucking painful. And I'm really flexible. Like when I do pigeon pose, even pigeon pose laying down, my knees are in my mouth and I'm good with it. I couldn't do it. It was so much pain. So I pulled a muscle in my back like 25 years ago. And when I'm given meds by Western Med, I store that shit. I always would think like, what if I have a bullet wound? I may need this. I may need these muscle relaxers and this codeine to remove this bullet that gets shot into my thigh in the apocalypse. I don't know. Anyway, I have it all stored in this box. So I was like, I think I have muscle relaxers. I went in there and yes, I have like 25-year-old muscle relaxers, and I took one. I was in such a stressed out, like desperation, because it was so painful, that I took a muscle relaxer and it didn't do shit. So it was at that point I was like, there's something going on with my body that's not right. This is definitely spiritual. What am I feeling into? And then it hit me. Then I remembered the fucking Uranus. Oh fuck, my Jaio. I haven't been working on that. So your physical body, you know how like scale, right? Here's the scale. And it pivots on this like obelisk, right? Imagine your physical body is that obelisk. This is your outer energy. And this is your Jaio. And they have to be in balance in order for the physical body to stay supple, to stay soft. There has to be that balance in order for this vibrating matter of an Earthsuit to be balanced. to stay balanced. And so what was happening is that because of that Jupiter transit with Uranus, my outer energy was the capacity of the cosmos, and it was expanding and expanding and expanding, and it was tilting, and my physical body was fighting to fucking hold that immense fucking energy outside of myself. And it literally had all of my large muscles in spasm. Every large muscle group in my body was in spasm, and it was fucking painful. So I ran a hot bath, and I put a shit ton of Epsom salt in it to help soften my body. And I just laid there, and I opened first the top Sanjiao door, and I felt immediate relief. It's phenomenal. It was a fucking phenomenal thing, because when I figured that out, I'm like, duh. So I got out of the bath, and I put my pajamas on, and it was like 9 p.m. And I'm a night bird, y'all. I'm like, owl is my totem. I'm a night owl. But I came and laid down, and I went into that deep place, but this is deeper than I had ever been. My Sanjiao was the cosmos too. So that Sanjiao is the void. The void is the infinite potential that all creation emerges from. And so everybody's got it. And so when I laid there, I literally became aware of everything. I was so connected to everything and nothing. And I heard my son say, because my daughter goes, she's in bed already? And my son goes, she said her body hurts. And Roselia, she's so savage. He's sweet. He's concerned about his mom because I'm already in bed. And Roselia's like, she looks glassy. What is she doing? And Daniel, he's like, I don't know, go see. And so my daughter comes over. She doesn't say shit to me. Mom, nothing. She covers me. And they both walk out. So like somewhere in the middle of the night, at some point, I did get up, and I went to the bathroom, and my son immediately, he heard that I was up, and he jumped up. You okay, Mom? You all right? And I go, yeah. He's like, you okay? And I said, it's fucking amazing. I don't have not even one single cell in my body feels discomfort right now. Not one single cell. And he was like, oh, that's good. And I said, it's fucking phenomenal. It's good. So that's the Sanjiao. So what is your proportion? What's your capacity? And do you create the balance that you need to hold it? To hold your outer energy, especially as women, because that allows that chaos to swim all around you. Because remember, anything that is changing is not you. You are the ever constant. And so you can't identify with the changing, but you got to fine tune those parts of you that are the infinite parts, connecting and constantly connecting, maintaining. And that's really how we become better humans, is to embody that spirit as our human. So that's the Sanjiao. I'll post how to spell that, because I know that's going to be elusive, but it's S-A-N-J-A-I-O, I believe. Did I write it down? Yeah, J-I-A-O. It's known as the sixth organ in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. It's the hollow organ. It's a room. It's the room. the void, as above, so below. So just like that yin and yang, the darkness to the light, the balance, the inner balance to the outer balance. And I was literally taxing myself, taxing that obelisk where my entire body was in complete tetany, tense, really fighting to hold up literally the fucking cosmos outside my body. And it was hurting. It was painful. So, yeah, I'm glad I figured that out. But you see, I took a 25, I mean, who knows? Maybe it didn't work because it was 25 years old, the fucking muscle relaxer. But honestly, if you want to know my opinion, it didn't work because that's not what the fuck was wrong with me. So, Danny says, I get that hot, fuzzy feeling in my navel. Yeah, there you go, see? Because the Sanjiao, if you don't have enough room, it will bulge. And those are the 3 doors at the base of the sternum. So it's, remember, it's not the chakras, it's sandwiched between the chakras, the navel and the pelvic floor. So, does anyone have any questions? Lots of water, deep breathing. I should create a meditation for the Sanjiao because I bet you not a single one exists. So maybe I'll do that. Record one and put it on my YouTube. Thank you, Danny. You're magnificent. You're just seeing the best parts of you and me. I love this, Sasha. I love this song. It's Aura, A-U-R-A-H. It's called Sweet Delirium. I love that song too. The whole album is nice, but that particular song, I love it. I like using it at the end of breath work when I have private sessions. Kind of transports you. Spell the Sanjiao, S-A-N, or the group or Sanjiao. Aura, it's A-U-R-A-H. Yeah, Sanjiao is S-A-N-J-I-A-O. All the parts are the best parts. Aww. Are you talking about the breath work, August? I think you're biased. I love you. Does anyone have any other questions? It was really a toss-up what I was going to do story time on tonight, but when I saw the pattern, what I just shared before I did story time, I was like, oh, snap. This is obedience, y'all. That was spirit that told me this is what you have to talk about, bitch. That's what I mean by being obedient. Spirit will tell you if you just surrender. Spirit tells you what the hell to do. There's no guesswork. Makes it easy. You make it complicated. I make it complicated. We make it hard for ourselves. Look, I took a fucking muscle relaxer because I was like, God damn it, what's going on? Am I sick? Spirit was like, nah, you're not sick. It's the same when you start experiencing anything, when you're more aligned with spirit, and all of a sudden your throat gets scratchy when you're trying to say something, and you know it's the first time you tried to express something, and you're like, damn, I'm finally getting this out, and even my spirit knows how hard this is. It's like that. We make things complicated. They don't have to be. Thank you, Rosemary. I'm grateful. Thank y'all for sharing your most valuable commodity with me, your time. and your energy. I so appreciate you all so much, so much. And I am sorry for any misalignment that I may have caused. Please forgive me. Thank you for this opportunity to make it right, to ask for amends, to repent, to share my time and energy in love in this beautiful exchange.